Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's better on draft.
Welcome, everybody. This is the Michigan Series, episode number 28. My name is Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. We were off last week for the 4th of July. I decided to give myself a great gift on my vacation and gave myself COVID once again. But I still have my taste buds, so I am drinking an Allagash Barrel and Bean. This is a barrel-aged golden ale with cold brew coffee. Clocking in at 9.6% like we did in the old days. A little light for the old days, but let's go around and see what everybody else is drinking, starting with Tito. Tito, what do you got?
All right. Tonight I am drinking a coconut kolsch from Unexpected Brewing. And I'm also double fisting. Hold on. Double fisting. Also have a coffee peanut butter chocolate stencil stout from Unexpected Brewing.
Tito doing his homework. Dan, what do you got?
Apparently, I'm the only one doing things the right way. I've got a barrel-aged mean bean. So, Ken, I got you beat at the right number of 10.0%.
I mean, it's technically, 10%. Wendy, what do you got?
Well, I went a little bit light today, and because my taste buds aren't 100% back yet, I've got a No Dignity Hazy IPA from Pigeon Hill, one of my favorite summer beers. And because we can get it in Michigan now, I also have a Go Out in a Haze of Glory New England style IPA from Duclaw.
And just in time, Nicholas, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a bunch of German beer. I haven't quite opened up the cans yet. They're left over from the Advent calendar. That's all I know.
Oh, we're still celebrating Advent.
Yeah,
all right.
We are still celebrating
Did you drink any of them during Advent?
I did. I missed on. I just didn't get to the last 5 or 6 cans. That's the only thing I didn't get to.
And he still
it does
has
get
it
tedious.
To this day. And,
well, I don't drink so much anymore except on Fridays. So I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe I should drink. Maybe I should drink more. I don't know.
Well, I was looking to see how long it's been, and I know we had him on the show during our Jimmy John's Field episodes, but the last time we truly sat down and spoke with our guest was back in 2017. He was the owner of Rouge Brewing. So many things have changed since then, so let's welcome in Eddie. Eddie, first, what are you drinking?
I am drinking an Unexpected Craft. There it is. Let's see if I can get in there. There it is. It's a Heaven in the OP barrel aged, clocking in at, I think it's about 12%.
All right. There you go.
Heaven Hill barrel aged Imperial Stencil Stout.
Someone came prepared.
Well, before we get into the story, I want to catch up a little bit on you and see how things are going. You guys moved. Where are you guys currently located?
We are located in the lovely city of Oak Park, Michigan.
And where did the name Unexpected Craft come from?
Well, originally we were River Rouge, which we still are. Our company structure is River Rouge Brewing Company. And that all came about because my grandfather came over from Poland and settled in River Rouge. My dad was born there, but it created some confusion because the brewery wasn't there. It was in Royal Oak. And when we decided to expand, we found a location in Oak Park. And before COVID, pre-COVID, we were planning on having the River Rouge operation in Royal Oak and having a new place. And we thought it's going to be confusing to have two places called River Rouge when people think they're downriver. And we're like, we got to get away from that. So we thought we got to come up with a name that fits with the story of our journey in beer. And it's kind of it's unexpected that I'm a brewer and that I own a brewery because I transitioned into this later in life. I was in the movie industry before that, and I spent 4 years in the auto industry before I did the movie industry. So it's technically my third career. So it's very unexpected. My wife and I, Martha, who's the other owner, we didn't expect to be doing. It's an unexpected craft to be doing beer right now in our life. So that's where the name came from.
Well, let's kind of talk about the story. I know a lot of people have probably made up their own story as to what happened with River Rouge. I had the blessing to be able to hear kind of what happened from you at the winter conference over in Traverse City this year. But why don't you kind of give us, let's say April 2020 when the world shut down to today, kind of give us a timeline of how things progressed.
Well, April 2020, I was in bed with COVID. I came down with COVID. The first week we shut down, I found out there was 4 of my regulars that at River Rouge and Royal Oak. We all came down. There was 5 of us that came down with COVID first wave. So I was sick with COVID from the middle of March until I didn't really come out of it until middle of May, and then I had symptoms for another 6 months. So I had the original strain, no vaccine, no nothing. And that knocked me out. So we were shut down. We shut down from before St. Patrick's 2020. And then we opened up in the middle of March under Michigan restrictions. And then we had to figure out what we were going to do. We had bought the building that we're currently in right now in Oak Park in the summer of 2018. July of 2018 is when we purchased that. And so it's been 4 years since we purchased that building. And so we had to figure out what we were going to do, because our location at River Rouge, if you'd been there, I think the whole place was just under 1,400 square feet, including the bathrooms. It was tiny. And with restrictions with COVID, I think we could have 12 people in the place. And we weren't really set up for to go because we didn't have we didn't have a canning line. We didn't have anything. So COVID was really a kick in the butt for us. We weren't really prepared for it because we were in the middle of, we just bought a building. Our cash reserves were down to almost zero because we were putting everything into a new establishment. So COVID was like, just hit at the perfect time for us. And so we had to figure out what we were going to do. So we were caught with our pants down with COVID, and it wasn't good. So we had to figure out what we were going to do to weather this. Well, the city of Royal Oak kind of made it easy for us. I found out my sidewalk was in the downtown business district, but my building wasn't. Therefore, I wasn't entitled to any of the grant money that they were giving businesses to help weather the COVID storm. So myself, we didn't at River Rouge and Roque, because they were over on Lincoln, they did not receive any grant money or any assistance from the city. So that wasn't helpful. And then to make it even worse, the city of Royal Oak decided to do a gift card giveaway of like 600, I think it was 400, and then they did another 150 or 200. I think it was around $600,000 worth of gift cards they gave away. And of course, they didn't include us. So not only did they not give us any money to help us, but then they actively marketed against us. So, the great distillery across the street, Motor City Gas, they've got gift cards. Royal Oak's got gift cards. Lilly has gift cards. Bastogne has gift cards, or excuse me, it would be Jolly Pumpkin then. Jolly Pumpkin, but Roque and myself, we did not have gift cards. So after all that, I thought, this is a sign. It just doesn't make sense to try and keep this open anymore. We're just going to shut down the River Rouge and Royal Oak, and we're going to move everything to Oak Park and just we'd already said we were going to be Unexpected Craft. We'll just let people know that's where we're going and that's what we're doing. So it was a tough transition because I was my own general contractor. I did everything in there. I carried in the 50-pound bags of cement to build the bar, everything. I was involved in every aspect. And so that was exhausting doing that, besides going through COVID. And about 8 months after getting over COVID and working on the building, my back went out and I couldn't walk for a month. So I had that. So I had everything going against me physically in that transition, but we willed it. I had a lot of people help me out. Jeff Johnson, my new assistant brewer, Justin Smith. That's how I met him. He came in. I had a bunch of my friends. A lot of people helped us get to the point of being able to open. But pretty much everyone bet against us. The bank told me there was no way. They told me in June of 2020 that I was going to go under and that there was no way I was going to make it to being open. And so just them telling me that, I was like, there's no way I'm not going to get open at this point. So we dug in and we made it happen. And it was, there was dark times where we're just like, what am I doing? How am I going to do this? And we eventually, we got it open, and it was a struggle, and we're really happy. We love the new space. It's great. It's about 7,500 square feet. There's all kinds of room. One thing we didn't do because of COVID, we were going to expand our brew house. You can see it behind me in the picture. We're still on a 3.5 barrel system, which we double into 7s and triple into 10s, which is a bit of a pain, but I just haven't, we haven't really fully recovered from all the expenses and moving into the new place to justify buying a new system. But that's on my list of first things to do, is to jump up to at least a 10 barrel. I'm thinking 10 barrels where I'm going to go eventually. But now with everything happening in the world, with the economy, the way it's kind of, still in a post, we're not really even a post, we're still in the later stages of a pandemic and everything happening. I'm kind of just trying to hold my own and keep everything going, but we like what's going on. Every month we've been open so far. We opened October 8th in 2021 was our first day open in Oak Park. Our official opening with the city was October 28th, 2021. We actually shut down end of April 2021 in River Rouge. That was the last of that location. But every month we've been open, we've set the record for income for that particular month. So it's been good for us. I can see, even under these conditions, once things, turn a little bit better, I can see it really working out for us. But it was a tough transition. I don't wish it upon anyone. I don't think I'd ever do that again. You think it's a smart idea, but it's tough. It's tough when you're your own contractor and you're dealing with COVID and just dealing with, it took us, I think it was like 6-7 months. We couldn't find a plumber. Everyone, during COVID, it was tough to get people, and it was, everything, resources. It was good that we were doing most of the work ourselves because we could do it, but then getting certain things that we had to have because we needed trades. Jeff Johnson, his cousin, Steve Johnson, is an electrician. So he ended up, we lucked out there, and actually Steve Johnson's father is a roofer, and they actually helped us because we had to upgrade the roof to an R30 roof. So we were fortunate. We did that before COVID, or that would have been a lot more expensive. But we just tied into all our connections of friends, and we tied into the community, and that's what got us through. Our friends and family helped us out, and we made it happen.
So you were the first brewery in Oak Park. What made you choose that location?
Actually, Martha, who's the majority owner, my wife, Martha Stencel, she actually found it. She was looking. We knew by year 2 at Royal Oak at River Rouge that we needed. I mean, the space was too small. I mean, it's a miracle we made that space work. It was just way too small for a brewery. If you were in there, you saw that everything was jammed together. It was every time I had to brew, I had to move everything. So I spent, I think, almost 8 hours a week doing nothing more than moving stuff. So I wasted a day each week of just playing move this piece of equipment so I can work. So we knew after year 2 that we needed to find a bigger place. So we were looking in Royal Oak. We were looking in Madison Heights. We were looking in Hazel Park. We were looking in Ferndale. I didn't even think about looking in Oak Park, but Martha was doing most of that. And she was looking at places, and she came across the building that we're in right now. And she told me about it, and it was listed. It said it had 10-foot ceilings. And I said, well, that's too small. We can't move into that. 10-foot ceilings are too small. And she said, well, let's go take a look at it anyways. So we looked at it, and they had it listed wrong. It actually had 16.5-foot ceilings in the brew in one section, in the production section. And it was an illegal grow house at the time. It was shut down because it was before. So it was kind of funny. It was built in 1934, and it was called National Screw Products. It was a tool. They did tool and die type stuff, or parts for military, for tanks during World War II, and Navy stuff. And I've actually had guys that worked in the original place come into the brewery, which is kind of cool. But it was National Screw Products. Then it was a cabinet making factory. And then it became an illegal grow house for, I think, about 1.5 to 2 years before it got shut down. And then it sat on the market, and we bought it. And it was, so that was back in 2018. We thought, well, I looked at it and was like, it's a big place, a lot more space, and the location. So the location was perfect because it was in the area. We wanted something close. There was nothing over there at the time. If you go to Southfield, there was no breweries in that area, nothing in Berkeley. The beautiful thing about it is it borders Southfield, Berkeley, and Huntington Woods. So you have 3 communities besides Oak Park that you're right with. And I'm right on 11 Mile. There's a car wash right next to us. Get a lot of people come by the car wash. It was just a good location. So I have to give all the credit to Martha for finding it, because I would have never thought about, and I wouldn't have went and looked at it. But we were just trying to find places that were in the vicinity of Royal Oak. I wanted to buy the building next to me in Royal Oak and stay in Royal Oak, but my landlord owned that building. He wouldn't sell it, and I wasn't going to stay there. And I saw too many of my friends that own breweries in San Diego get into trouble with leasing, and then the landlord raising the rent, and then they go out of business. So I'm like, I knew that if we were going to control our destiny, we needed to own the building we were in. And so that wasn't going to work out. It was tough. I tried to convince the guy that the landlords were great in Royal Oak. And I'm like, hey, if you sell me the building next door, I'll still lease the building I'm in, and you'll have a tenant. And they didn't go for it. So we knew we had to move. We got lucky because we got in there when the prices were still, you couldn't touch a building for what we bought that building for right now. And we got in, and then I found out there's a restaurant called Oak Park Social, and the owner there, one of the owners is Ronnie and Alex. They're the owners, and I've met both of them, and we became friends. But he said he bought that building because he saw there was an article when we bought the building in Oak Park that I didn't realize the Free Press interviewed me, and I had no idea. I was on the front page of the Free Press. It was me and Aretha Franklin's funeral. I was on I'm like, wow, I never thought I'd be on the front page of the Free Press. And it was about opening up in Oak Park. So yeah, it was, that was wild, but yeah, it's been fantastic. The city has been fantastic. Everyone around there, the neighborhoods, it's been a really good experience so far.
That's awesome. So I am an avid beer traveler. We kind of chatted a little bit before the show about some of our beer trips. What is it that makes, or why should people come and visit your brewery?
Why should people come and visit Unexpected? Well, for one, the variety. We have 30 taps. You come to a place, you go to a lot of craft breweries. We've got 30 taps. We've got something for everyone. In fact, 2 days ago, we finally got our wine license. So I'm going to start making wine. We're going to start have mead. We're going to have cider. And there's a few other surprises we're going to do.
I thought he was about to say 2 days ago he just launched his alt beer.
Yeah, no. Actually, I just checked it today. It's going to be at the Michigan Brewers Guild Summer Beer Fest coming up July 22nd, 23rd. Instead of a California Common, I did a Michigan Common, and it's all Michigan grain, all Michigan hops. I have a steam beer that I've got coming up for the. It's going to be my anniversary beer for the 25th anniversary for the Summer Beer Fest. But So why should you come there? Well, one is just we have a great selection of beers. I'm passionate about beers, and I'm always there. I'm there pretty much 7 days a week. And I know there's a lot of breweries you go to that, a lot of the owners are there, but I've not been to too many other breweries. There's just a handful where you go in and the owner and the brewer is serving you a beer. I'm not just hanging out. I'm there pouring beers. In fact, I was there serving beers before I came on tonight. And once we finish, I'll be back there serving beers till close. So I'm there pretty much every day we're open. So that's something that's really, I think, as a beer enthusiast myself, when I go into a brewery, I love the fact if I get to talk to the brewer or talk to somebody that's part of the business, not just someone that's serving the beer. Although, a lot of people that are servers got a lot of great stories and are cool people too. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's something special. I meet people. I had someone from Sandwich Brewing Company in Windsor, Canada. As soon as they opened up the borders back in April, day one, he was in my place. And I thought that was so cool. And like 2 weeks later, I was in his place. And, it was a cool thing. That's part of the great thing about the beer community. Somebody comes out, reaches out, comes to your place. I go to their place. But I think it's a unique experience when you come into Unexpected Craft. You'll be surprised. There's something for everyone. And it's, if anything, I've got good stories. I've been around the world. Before I did this, I was in the movie industry for 20 years. I always tell everyone, the guy that's serving you the beer, you'd never guess this. One of the things I did when I was in the movie industry, I got a chance to direct Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, how many people have someone that's directed Samuel L. Jackson serving them a beer? Very few.
All right. Before I pass it on to the next person, my next question is, what were you able to learn from your first brewing mistake-wise that you didn't make a second time?
Oh, in the first place, what did I learn from that? Well, about basically getting a bigger space, getting more space than you need because you're always going to grow. I mean, in the first place, just getting enough, thinking it's enough space to start your business is a bad idea. You want to always make sure there's enough space to grow. It's funny because halfway through building out the new place, I'm like, maybe we should have went bigger. But we have plenty of space. But it's funny when you have lots of space, you kind of you get cavalier with it, and I can just put this here and that. But when you have little space, you're very precious with it. And now I know with the new place, I've got plenty of space to grow, and it works out. And that's just a mistake that in starting that you got to make sure that you give yourself room to grow.
Well, it sounds like since you moved over to Oak Park, it sounds like the community has welcomed you. So it sounds like, they were really enthusiastic about you being the first brewery, in Oak Park. But one of the things we noticed is that your average beer rating has gone up since you moved. Is there anything that different or any changes you've made in the beer process to a reason why, your averages are going up?
I think because we have more space, because I'm not wasting time moving things, I've had more time to work on the beer. And I've conscientiously been working more on water chemistry, and I've had the time to do that. And I think that's helped. And I'm on my third assistant brewer, and the other two assistant brewers were great. And I have a new assistant brewer. Well, he's been with me over a year now, Justin Smith. And Justin is he wasn't a beer guy. He's actually a weed guy. And I converted him to beer. And he has just taken to it, and his level of passion and brewing is equal to my passion in brewing. And I always tell people, I always think, the secret ingredient with every great brewery is this. It's the love you put into it. And I feel like we're putting twice as much love into it now. Besides the water chemistry, it's I'm putting my love into it, and my assistant brewer is putting his love into it. And that's it. I was lucky to find him because it was one of those things. He came in to help with the construction part, and he's just a hard worker and he loves what he's doing. And every day he's learning more and more about brewing beer and is excited about it. And he goes the extra mile and wants to make great beer. We're always talking about what can we do to make this better. So I think at River Rouge, we were so small, we were boxed in. We just didn't have time to do those things, to worry about the water chemistry, to make better beer. And now that we have the space and we have the resources, we're spending more time making the beer better.
Well, now that you mention it, with more space, and you did mention earlier, you had like 30 taps in the new space here.
Yeah.
So with you being on that 3.5 barrel system, how often are you brewing? Are you brewing more often, or just to keep up with the?
We are actually we're brewing depending when we get we added 1 10-barrel fermenter since we opened up there, and so right now we have 2 7-barrel fermenters. We have two 10-barrel fermenters, a 4-barrel fermenter, and a 10-barrel bright. That's our system, all in stainless. But we also have 8 plastic 3-barrel fermenters that I use for sours and Belgian beers that I can do open fermentation. And I built a fermentation room there. So I actually have a lot of capacity because not only do I have my stainless fermenters, but I have I'm like, what the heck, I'm doing this. I'm going to build myself a fermentation room. So now I have a room that I can just load in beers, and I'm doing my saisons in there and my sours and some experimentals. I did a Lithuanian farmhouse. I did a Swedish? Was it Swedish? The hothead one. I'm trying to do more, experimental stuff with that I have the space to do it. But we are brewing, to answer that question. We're brewing. Sometimes we're doing double days, and we're brewing 4 or 5 days a week a lot of times now.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna pass it over to Nick. I heard Nick had a question for you.
Thanks, Tito. Most people that probably listen to our show that aren't from the state of Michigan have probably never heard of Oak Park before. You mentioned other communities as well. You mentioned Southfield, Huntington Woods, Berkeley, a lot of small suburban cities that probably not a lot of people have actually heard of. With that, I'm sure there's a lot of people in those communities being, there's not necessarily a lot in those, cities, craft brewery wise, that you're getting a lot of new folks to come in and check out your establishment. When a new person comes in and having so many tap handles on at any given time, you have 30 on hand. What do you kind of get them to kind of break the ice with craft beer? How do you break them in? What would you recommend out of the 30 that you have at any given time?
Well, if they're not a craft beer drinker, I usually get them to. I try to stretch them. I have a Pilsner. I make it with Pilsner malt from Germany. It's a German style Pilsner. And I try to get them to I do a mango Pils. And I try to get them to do something, not just the Pilsner, but do a step up from that Pilsner. So I try to ease them into something like that, a Pilsner, or I do an LOL, which is a lovely orange lager. I try to get them into a light beer that has a little flair to it. So it's kind of edging in there. If they're a craft beer person, I steer them towards. I'm really excited about our unexpected IPA, which is a New England style IPA. It's a Vermont style. I dry hop it 3 times. It's not a hazy. I really like that beer. And then I have Dude, Are You Hazy, which is my hazy beer, which I've been playing around with that, and I get them to try that. And now I did with the Pink Boots. I did the International Women's Day brew. We did. Pink is my signature color, which was a strawberry hazy. And we went through that. And so I wanted to keep that on. And unfortunately, the hop profile that they do for that, they only make it available. So I had to modify the recipe, but I have a new one. So I changed the name to One Way or the Other IPA, which One Way or the Other comes from the movie Reservoir Dogs. Mr. Pink says it. When he's trying to get out, he said, one way or the other, I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of this warehouse. So I kind of get the Pink reference there. So that's the one that's on now. So I steer him towards either the Dude or the Pink or the Unexpected if they're a craft person.
Quick confession. I just saw Reservoir Dogs for the very first time not that long ago. So Ken's shaking his head for those that are not watching.
I'd
the
mute
live.
you if you were back in the studio.
Yeah, I would just boot you right out of here, but that's aside from the problem. Anyway, so had to admit that real quick. Let's change gears a little bit. You are part of a committee for the Michigan Brewers Guild, the DE&I, or Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. What is the purpose of this committee? Because this is actually the first time I've actually heard of it. And what have you been able to accomplish since you've been a part of it?
Well, I was one of the founding members of that. When I was on the board of directors for a while, I actually had the pleasure of serving on the board during COVID, which was kind of weird, of the Michigan Brewers Guild. And we formed that committee because we frankly felt like, the Michigan Brewers Guild wasn't doing enough to embrace everyone in the beer community. And we felt like we needed to address that. And so Kim over at Guardian Brewing Company over in Saugatuck, she's one on the board of directors. She's the chairman of that. She was very passionate about that, about forming that. And a bunch of us got together, and initially it's just the awareness of the fact that we need to think about not just what people think are the typical beer drinkers, which most people think of white dudes drinking beer and the craft beer. I mean, that's been the stereotype. And so we wanted to, craft beers for everyone. And so we need to get that out there, and we need to find ways to get that message out there and to let people know. So what we've done, we just had our conference that Ken was at, and we had a panel, and we were discussing like, what are people doing to become more aware of the broader sense of the communities that you live in. I'm fortunate in Oak Park. It's a very diverse community. We have people, in fact, well, the other owner of Unexpected, my wife, is from Mexico. And so my wife's Mexican, and she's actually the majority owner, not just by 1%, but by quite a bit. I was smart enough to make her like, she run, I just want to brew beer. She gets to deal with all the major business things, but, and she's really good at that. But so I'm aware of diversity because I'm in a diverse marriage partnership, and a lot of people don't get to, they may not be exposed to that. And so a message, what we're trying to do is get out there and let people know that there are breweries that are owned by women, there are breweries that are owned by, there are, I don't know the exact number, but there are Black-owned breweries, gay-owned breweries, Mexican-owned breweries, Latino, I should say. There's a spectrum, and a lot of people don't know about that. And so we're getting the word out. In fact, at the Summer Beer Fest that's coming up in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today, in Ypsilanti, we decided everyone in the, I don't know if it's everyone, but most of us in the diversity and the DEI committee, we're all going to be grouped together. So we're going to have all our breweries together, and we're going to be showcasing that, that there is this committee, and that we are, unified in getting the word out that craft beer is for everyone.
Right. Well, that's a message that we constantly talk about on this show, and we had our Juneteenth episode not that long ago. That is a message that, along with you and others, we're going to continue to keep spreading that message as well here as part of this show. Great. I'm going to turn it on over to the big machine, Dan.
All right. Eddie, first off, I got to give you a shout out. Making a steam beer. Not many people, or I should say breweries, actually make a steam beer these days, rather. So that's pretty awesome. I want to throw it back. I used to live on the border of Ferndale and Oak Park back until I moved out here to Arizona in 2017. Now, Oak Park was a desert when it came to not only craft beer, but beer or liquor in general. What was it like working with the city? Was it difficult? Did they give you a lot of trouble? Just talk to us about the process of that, if you could.
Well, the city changed their laws, their ordinance, or I guess it was on the books for them because it was a dry city in 2015. They switched that. So they were actively going out and looking for breweries to move into their community because they changed the laws and they decided that they needed to do something to change up their community and become, you know, a place where younger people, because you had Ferndale, you know, Royal Oak kind of went through that growth period. Then Ferndale went through it. Then Hazel Park went through it. You had all these communities in this area going through it. And you had Oak Park, which was affordable, had housing, had all these things, but people weren't moving there because they didn't feel like there wasn't things that younger people were in. There wasn't restaurants and breweries, and there just wasn't the types of places that attracted younger people to their communities. And so they knew they needed to do that. So they actively were out looking. And I actually met two representatives from the city of Oak Park at the Brewers conference in Kalamazoo in 2018. It was January of 2018. And a friend introduced me because I was actively looking for a place to buy a spot. And it was funny. I met with them and they said, yeah, we'd love for you. They had a place that they had a couple places for me to check out. And it was just kind of serendipitous that Martha was looking and she had found this building in Oak Park. As soon as I found it, I called them up. I said, well, there is this building we're looking at. And it happened to be exactly in the area that the city wanted to redevelop, which it's called the Water Tower District. And it just all kind of worked out that they were looking and we were looking, and we happened to find a place in Oak Park. But they were great. They did. I know everyone when you're building out, whether it's a brewery, whether it's just a house or whatever it is, when you're building something, you're dealing with inspectors and things like that. It can be a nightmare. And I had a few times where, you know, something didn't meet code by a half an inch. I decided to put two sinks in the men's bathroom instead of one. I thought, hey, wouldn't it be great just instead to have one sink, have two sinks? And I didn't have it on my original plans, but I'm like, hey, since I'm doing this, I can make the move on the fly. Well, I was like a half inch from code. There's a thing between the center of one sink to the center of the other sink that it has to be. And the inspector comes in and says, you're going to have to rip that all out and move it. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm not doing that. So I picked up the phone. I called Kimberly. She's the director of economic development at Oak Park. And she's like, I'll talk to somebody. Got a phone call an hour later. You're good. Like that's a city working with you. I mean, you know, it's one thing you learn is that I know ordinances are there to be, you know, for a reason, and they are good to some extent, but you have to be sensible on some of these things. It doesn't make sense. And it was nice that I had the ability, and the city they wanted me there. And so they were willing to work with me. And I did not get that in my previous experience. I didn't have that experience of the city being willing to say, okay, yeah, that's good. And so that was nice. And even now they're working with us to develop events and to do things there. And they're working with all the other businesses in that area. And they continue to try and publicize the area and to get more businesses to come to this area of Oak Park.
That's great to hear because, I remember back in the day, they were pretty anti anything really going on back, especially in the earlier 2000s. Now, you mentioned you got your winemaker's license. Now, I've really gotten into mead making this last year, probably about 7-8 months. Talk to us a little bit about your plans for that. What are you thinking you're going to do wine-wise, mead-wise, anything like that?
Well, I'm initially, I'm trying to start off slow with that. I'm looking into making some of my own wine. I'm starting off just basic, just simple stuff. So I have wine. So I'm working with, I've got kits to start off slow, but I want to also get bonded wine and start blending. And I've been talking, one of the things I like to do with beer is blend. I want to get into blending with wine. So with a wine license, I don't necessarily have to, I can, as long as I perform a manufacturing process on the wine, I can buy bonded from another winery and create my own blend of wine. So I plan on doing some of that. I plan on doing a few like small kits and playing around with it. But initially it's just to be able to have that, I to have that ability to have wine on hand, because you get, groups of people and one of them doesn't like beer and they want wine or mead or cider, and I didn't have it before. And 9 times out of 10, they either left right away or they stayed for one drink and then they left. So I lost that business. So it's always good to have that. And one of the things that the Michigan Brewers Guild is doing right now, another thing is like to have NA beer. And it seems kind of weird. I can have soft drinks, I can have tea, I can have soda, I can have water, I can have sparkling water, but I can't buy NA beer and have it in my fridge, even though it's NA beer. The Michigan law doesn't allow me to do that. So the Michigan Brewers Guild is actively working on this year. We're working, in fact, I think it just went to committee, working on a law change that will allow breweries like myself, small breweries, to be able to buy NA beer. So at least it's another thing that when a group of people, whether it's your designated driver or someone that just doesn't want alcohol in their beer, you have that option. And for me as a small brewery, it's just cost prohibitive to buy the equipment to take the alcohol out. I mean, I don't know if you look into that, it's really expensive. And so it would be great, if we're able to do that. It's all about, creating a place where everyone that's there can enjoy something. And I think that's where breweries are evolving to, at least the smaller ones, is that you need to have something for everyone besides, my specialty, which is beer. You want to have a little bit of something for those other people that are maybe not beer drinkers.
Yeah, and Ken made the case a couple of weeks ago that we should open a contract de-alking facility. And I laughed at him, but apparently that was like the smart move as far as ideas go. So Ken, I'm going to throw it over to you. See what you have to say about that.
Aw, Dan, that means so much. I'm actually drinking. So you mentioned NA beer. We had a month and a half ago, a gentleman from Northern California who opened up a brewery called Bella Snow. And all the beers that he makes are 2.4%. And the reason for that is that you can legally, I think, call it low alcohol as long as it's under 2.5%. He explained it on the show. Go check out the show. Of course, you can subscribe to us. Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can find us on YouTube. Subscribe, leave us a review. Hopefully a nice glowing review. But like this right here, this is a Scottish style ale with Mandarin. That's only 2.4%. So for me, after drinking a near 10% beer, going to a 2.4%, this is kind of going to help me keep my buzz without necessarily having me go over. And that's something we also learned when we had Two Roots on eons ago, like 2 years ago. Almost. We've been doing this for a while on COVID, let alone on podcast itself. You mentioned you did the Pink Boots beer. Have you done any other not promotional, that sounds, negative, but any other beers for good causes within your system, whether it's through Unexpected or at River Rouge?
We did the Sierra Nevada beer for the fire. We were part of that. And I was involved with Batch when we weren't doing beers, but we were doing things for nonprofits in the area at River Rouge. So we're doing more. I'm getting involved with different local organizations to do different fundraisers and different things. I'm starting to do that at UCBC at Unexpected Craft. But that was the one we did. I don't know if you heard about when everyone in Michigan did that, the MLCC came after us because there's these kind of rules. In fact, we're working on that too. The guild's working on trying to change that so it's easier to do things where we're raising money for certain events or certain organizations where we can do it. Because right now in Michigan, I'm not allowed to do a beer and say I'm going to give $1 of that beer towards that cause. That's illegal in the state of Michigan. What I can do is say, if you come and drink this beer, we're going to make a personal donation, or the company's going to make a donation to that, but we can't tie it to an exact amount per a glass, per a pour. And we're trying to get that those things change. So it makes it easier for us to be more proactive and help different entities in the community.
Are you guys seeing a lot more representatives in the Michigan State House and State Senate that are being a little bit more progressive when it comes to changing the archaic laws? Or is this more the guild that's just trying their damnedest to finally get rid of some of these archaic laws that are really putting a hindrance on your guys' businesses because of all the other things that are putting hindrances on your business?
No, I think we're being more proactive in trying to do that, and we're seeing more people, and they're more. I think most people are unaware of a lot of the laws that are out there. I can tell you one that'll make your jaw drop if you haven't heard this. So this is in the state of Michigan. As an owner of a brewery, I am not allowed to drink in my own brewery per one of the laws that's on the books. Is that I'm the brewer, I'm the head brewer, and per one of these laws that's there somewhere that's buried, they don't enforce it, but it's out there. And the fact that it's out there, it could be enforced. You're not, as an owner, allowed to drink in your own establishment in the state of Michigan.
Is anyone actually enforcing that law?
No, but the fact that it's out there, think about
It's
it.
there, they could.
They could, exactly. If somebody, say you got into a dispute with one of your,
Say you cut off a local DA
Right.
for being drunk and
Jesus.
arrogant, and the next day he comes because he saw you drinking.
Right.
And, you were drinking at the end of the bar, just kind of making sure your bar is going A-okay. You weren't working, but you were just there.
Right.
And the next day you're coming in with a fine because you were drinking while owning the bar or brewery.
Exactly. The brewery, yeah. So there's so many of those laws that are still on the books that need to be changed. I mean, it's not just in the beer industry; it's all over the place. There's laws that need to be changed. One of the things I find in going to Lansing and doing that is just wow. It's just. The system is tough. It's archaic, and not just for us in the beer community, but for everything. I really urge people to go watch and see how things work, because you'll be like, what? Why does it? Because everything has to go to a committee, then to another committee, then to another committee before it even gets to a vote. It's like it takes so much time to correct something. We have tokens at the beer festival. We thought we got rid of the tokens because it's kind of foolish. The tokens cost the guild all kinds of money just to make the tokens. You lose them all the time. And the thing is, just because someone gives you a token, it doesn't take away the responsibility as the server or the brewing company or the guild to make sure people are drinking responsible. We always want that, and you're always responsible. What all the tokens do is cost us a lot of money, and it's a hassle. And most states don't have the token thing. We thought we solved that, but there was one word that the enforcement decided that didn't really work. And so now we had to go back and change the one word. And it's taking like over a year to change one word. It's crazy.
Yeah, we've talked ad nauseum regarding Michigan laws, and one of the laws that you talked about, like being able to sell NA beers, we actually have an insight, someone who works over in Lansing that gives us a bunch of information on upcoming alcohol laws. So that's HB 6105. Which is the law to be able to sell NA beverages. There's a few other things that's tacked onto that law, including being able to clip coupons for alcohol sales. So there's a few things that are going in there. But again, with regards to Michigan, for a while, it just seemed like nobody really cared. Like, you guys, as the guild, of course, you went, you tried, but nothing really came out of it. From our end, from the consumer end, I should say. Maybe from your end, you were able to get different laws, rules, regulations on distribution, purchasing, that kind of thing. But for us, like, we want to see that kind of change, because two of the things that I believe, and one of them is actually going through the current system, that's HB 6289, and that's the ability to buy alcohol on campus at football games. And one of the things I've said, and I've said on the show, is that you stop people from getting completely smashed in the tailgate, knowing that they can't drink on site. And somebody actually did a study at Ohio State, and they dropped 2/3 alcohol incidents have like been eliminated from just allowing on-premise sales at the university. So within the tokens, like you're telling people, hey, this is how many beers you have to drink. And that's what people do, is they go and they have to drink that many tokens, as opposed to, you know, deciding what they want, or, you know, going at their own pace and just going from start till they finish. So when they say, you know, hey, you have 8 tickets, you have 8 tokens, or you have 15 tokens, that's how many you have to drink. Therefore, you're going to drink them. So I think that's a lot of things, and I'm glad to hear that update that things are going to get changed. I want to ask one more question, and then we're going to get into the final questions. I know it's definitely a softball for you, just for the way that you chatted. But you were kind of mentioning about how you love serving. If you were given the ability to where you were financially stable, you didn't have to serve, you could afford full-time staff, full-time everything, would you still want to bartend after brewing day in and day out?
I would, yes, I would. I enjoy it. I just, my personality. I enjoy interacting with people, and I get feedback. It took me the first couple of years of doing that. You know, when you're serving your beer, it's tough. It's great when someone loves your beer. It's not great when someone makes comments and like, you learn that, you know, not everyone's going to love everything you do. And I always tell everyone, every beer I serve in my place, I love it. I always tell them the bare minimum of a beer that's up on the board, I have to drink it and say, would I order another one of these? Would I say, nah, I'm going to have another one because I'm enjoying this. If I'm not going to drink another one of the beers, I don't sell it. People are, I have the ability to dump a beer. If I don't, I've dumped beers. It's my Ricky Bobby saying that I came up with is if you're not dumping, you're not brewing. You know, if you're not first, you're last. If you're not dumping, you're not brewing. You should as a brewer, as an owner of a small brewery, you should have that, you know, that type of quality control. And you know, I have that, and it's great to get the feedback. And I think I've become more emboldened serving people. Now, I had some people in last night, and they're asking me about my beers, and I'm like, well, my peanut butter stout, my peanut butter chocolate stencil stout, that's one of the best peanut butter chocolate stencils. I said that's one of the best peanut butter chocolates in the state, and I stand by that. And it's like, and hey, it's I make the beer, and I'm going to tell people, and if I'm not going to sit there and tell them how great it is, who else is going to? So I get a chance as the server. You know, someone. So what beer should I order? I'm like, they're all great. You know, they're like, I made them. I'm the brewer, you know, and it gives me that opportunity to do that. So I enjoy that. I enjoy interacting with the people. I've always been, you know, I was a beer enthusiast before I was a brewer. And I just enjoy the culture. I enjoy beer. I'm one of those people, unless like right now at home, I don't drink that much beer unless it's an event or something. I drink a beer at a brewery, at a place with friends. It's a social thing for me. And I love that connection and the ability to do that at my own place.
All right. Well, as we end the show each and every week, we're all going to ask you one final fun question to kind of send you off, as I know you're going back to work. So we're going to start with Tito. Tito, what is your final question for Eddie over here?
Well, I have to say, Eddie, when you add coffee to that peanut butter stout, it is damn good. That's all I got to say. Okay. But I do have a question for you, because you do have some people will say unique flavors in your beers, you know, and whatnot. One in particular I want to know more about, and just curious as to how do you come up with these ideas and where do these ideas come from? In particular, this coconut Kolsch. Oh my gosh. It tastes like a coconut cream pie. It is awesome. So that's my question for you. Where do you get these ideas from? I mean, where did they come from?
You know, sometimes I just think, well, I just like, what would this taste like? I just do it. I try different things. I've always been that way, just creative with different things. Before, I was a photographer. I was a cinematographer, a still photographer. It's just the creative nature of who I am. I like to try things, and I also get it from going to other breweries. I love going to other breweries. I love checking out other places and see what other people are doing, and then getting ideas. But I'm not afraid to try something new. I mean, that and I'll sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If it's not good enough that I like it, I won't even serve it. But there's certain things. Some people don't like the coconut. Some people, I always tell people, coconut, you either love it or you hate it. It's too much coconut, or you love it. And I had a guy that came in last night. He's been coming for 3 years. He was at River Rouge, and he brings in a sixtel, because I always fill up when I brew the coconut. I give him a sixtel. I sell him a sixtel, I should say, of the coconut. He loves it. He's like, he just thinks it's great. And I think it was funny because I was playing around, and I didn't think that coconut would work in the Kolsch, and it just did. And that's part of brewing. It's part of cooking. It's mixing. And I like getting into blending and working with different flavors with beer and that, and blending and things like that. And it's funny because some people are really precious about brewing, and they're only like classic, like the German style, it can only be this way. I'm about if it tastes good, do it. I'm not precious about, I'll use fresh fruit. I'll use extracts. I'll use the whole gambit of flavors, whatever works. To me, it's like, who cares whether you use the fresh fruit or the extract, if the result is something that you enjoy and other people enjoy. But there's a lot of people that you can't do that. It's like, I'm not afraid. I guess I've been around long enough. I don't care what anyone thinks. If I like it, I always tell people, if you're not going to drink it, I'm going to drink it. There you have it.
All right, Wendy, what's your final question?
So a few minutes ago, you said, if you ain't dumping, you ain't brewing. My question is, since everything that you put out is something that you would drink a second glass of, is there a style that we will never see come across unexpected doorstep?
No, I don't think so. I drink everything. To me, it's not about it's not about style, because I think I embrace all the styles. It's just like, not just beer. I enjoy wine. I enjoy whiskey. I enjoy sake. I enjoy mead. I enjoy all the different beverages out there. They don't even have, they can be beverages. They're not alcohol beverages. So no, I'm not afraid to for me, it's not about it's not about doing something. I'm willing to try anything. And I remember at AleSmith, when I first got into brewing, there was one of the servers there. They let the servers for their speedway, they do different variants, and she did a variant. She did I want to say, it wasn't beets. It was it was awful. Whatever it was, it just didn't work. But she tried it. She brewed it, and we drank it. And I can't think, what was it? Was it beets? It was something that it just didn't work with the stout. But no, I'm willing to try. I'm willing to try anything when it comes to beer, and I'm not afraid. There's styles that I like stouts. I always tell people, they know right away. You come to my place, I love stouts, but I love my ALES Imperial. I like the Dude. I'm not afraid of any style, so I'm willing to do it. And I'm not afraid, if it doesn't work, to say this doesn't work, and I'll pour it, dump it.
Awesome.
Dan, what's your final question?
And shout out to AleSmith, because if you're not in their speakeasy drinking, and Eddie, I don't know if that was there when you were out there, but you're not really doing the whole experience. So I got to ask you, we'll kind of go off of Wendy's question here. What is a style of beer you haven't done yet that you're looking forward to doing?
style of beer I haven't done. I haven't done? I haven't done a quad. I haven't done a Belgian quad. I was going to attempt one for the 25th anniversary and I ran out of time. And I really like, I like big beers. And one of the things you're talking about, AleSmith, you go in that room, they have so many great blends. That's one of the things. Not a lot of people are blending like they do out on the West Coast. They're doing a lot of cool blending with beers, and they're blending, barley wines with stouts, with old ales, and it's awesome. Peter, the owner of AleSmith, he's one of my, he's someone that is a friend of mine and has encouraged me and inspired me, and I talk to him not as often as I'd like, and I get out there. I was just out there in April, and for me, that's where I go. I go to discover new things in brewing and get inspiration in that. And I find it, there's a lot of other brewers. I love Prairie down in Oklahoma. They're not afraid to do anything, but Prairie just does amazing stuff. But there's a lot of other, you got to reach out. But yeah, that's that would be a quad is on my mind. I'm doing a quad and I have another beer that I haven't done. Well, I've done porters like the VCP, but I told one of my friends, he's a Texan. He lives in Austin now, but he's an actor. He started acting at a Walker Texas Ranger as a stuntman, but his last name is Prince. And I told him I do Prince Porter, and his wife is from Mexico, like my wife, from the state of Chihuahua, where my wife's from. And so I want to do a Mexican chocolate Prince Porter. So that's one I want. I haven't done a real good Mexican version of any of my beers. And that's kind of a shame. I've got that on my list too.
I'm down for both of those that you just mentioned, the quad and the Mexican chocolate Prince Porter. That's fantastic.
Nick, your final question.
Well, since we know you're probably going to be working the brewery this weekend, either brewing or pouring, and you said earlier you can't necessarily drink at your own establishment. When you get home, are you still going to be drinking the stuff that you're brewing, or is there something special, maybe from another brewery, that you're going to be tapping into this weekend?
I always acquire beer from all the. I was just in Toronto. If you haven't, we're so close to major cities, and Toronto is one of the biggest cities in North America, if not in the world. And man, they've got some great breweries there. And so I've got some beer from some Blood Brothers. If you haven't been to Blood Brothers in Toronto, boy, they do some great stuff. But I'm looking at that. I have so many AleSmith beers. Barrel-aged stuff. I picked up some when I was there in April, and I'll be back. My shout out to San Diego, my friends out there, my buddy Alex, who's basically who was with Intergalactic that started me in brewing. He's in Northern California now, brewing up there. But if you get a chance in November, Beer Week, to me, it's on par with GABF or any other beer event. Beer Week, which is in November in San Diego, it's amazing all the things that are going on there. But we can go on a whole other tangent. We talk about San Diego beers and brews and stuff like that. But yeah, when I get home, I'm cracking something that I found at one of the breweries that I visited, whether it's one in Toronto, Oklahoma, here locally, California, wherever.
All right, there you go. Ken?
All right, my final question. Very, very simple, probably hard, but still very, very simple. You have a magic wand. You're able to get any booze barrel to put your PB Stencel into. What barrel do you want to get it into to see what happens?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because there's one barrel that I've been trying to get, and I just ordered it. It's coming next week. Actually, I ordered 2 of them, and it's kind of nostalgic from on a couple levels, but I've never done anything in a George Dickel barrel. And then I've got 2 12-year-old George Dickel whiskey barrels coming next week. And I'm excited about that. It's just one of those barrels that I always wanted to get, and I never was able to get a hold of them. And they popped up at one of my brokers that I use for barrels, and so those two George Dickles or something. I mean, there's a lot out there, but I've just been excited about seeing what they do with my stout and some of my other beers. But yeah, that's one of the things I'm working on. I have 10 53-gallon barrels working right now. I've got 4 more coming next week. My goal is by the end of this year is to have 50 barrels going at my place aging. I just love that, playing around with barrel aged stuff. And so my goal is to have that as a major part of of Unexpected Craft is barrel aged beer.
Well, stay tuned for that. 11 Mile and Oak Park Unexpected Craft Brewing Company. You can find them on Instagram at Unexpected Craft. Find everything that they're doing. That VCP 123 that I had at the Spring Beer Fest in Traverse City, easily, well, we put it on our website. That was the best beer I had at the festival, so congratulations. I don't know if this is the first time hearing it, but it was my favorite beer at that festival. So good, so smooth. You were right when you told me I needed to try it. I appreciate it. Eddie, thank you so much for joining us. I need you to get back to work now. No drinking on the job. No drinking after the job. You own you're only part owner. You're not full owner. Maybe we need
I'm minority owner.
Minority owner. So maybe, you're okay to be able to drink. But if I see your wife in there drinking, I don't know.
Working.
Ken's a cop, so he's gonna.
Yeah. Tons of experience with arresting people. That's going to do it better on Draft Podcast. The Michigan Beer Series, episode 28. For Eddie, my co-hosts, Nick, Dan, Tito, and Wendy, thank you so much for joining. No matter what you think of your beer, we think it's better on draft. Have a good night.
Peace.